Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Buffalo SportsCenter video. It's been a tough week, so hopefully this video is going to alleviate some of that sadness. I'm Don. With me today is Cal, and before we get off and talk about the Sabres here today, I'd just like to send our thoughts and prayers to Damar, Hamlin, and his family. Reports earlier today, well, it's going to be yesterday by the time all of you guys see it, is that Damar Hamlin is progressing, and that's the only news we want to hear. It's so relieving because that was so scary. I don't know if you have anything to say, Cal.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That was by far the scariest thing I've ever seen watching live sports, and I watch sports 24/7. So, crazy situation, but we've only had positive news, since the incident happened, and we can only pray it continues to get better, and hopefully Damar is able to make a full recovery.
Yeah, that's all we hope for, and I love the first thing he asks when he wakes up is who won the game. It's he's a true Buffalo Bill, and I'm glad he's gotten all the support, and his charity's been doing fantastic. So
Yeah.
it's a good day of news after a couple of days of uncertainty and dread, but it's good to see that. But moving past that, today we're going to talk a little bit about the Buffalo Sabres on a more brighter note, because the Sabres, they have been winning plenty as of late, but they still may have some work to do, and specifically Kevyn Adams. Now, we did a video like this last season because there was an obvious hole. At the end of the day, Kevyn Adams didn't make any moves, but this year we're going to look at who the Sabres can bring in on the defensive end of things to maybe shore up that defensive side of their game, which I will give them credit, it has improved, but there's still changes that should be had. Wouldn't you agree, Cal?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've that's been the biggest need for the Sabres for a while now. They need to, strengthen that defensive core. Now, guys have stepped in, and I think they've played pretty good. You got guys like Cal Clegg stepping in the lineup. Casey Fitzgerald wasn't too great, but he was decent for the time being. Thank goodness he is out of the lineup now, but he's still that emergency guy. Pilot back in the AHL. So you definitely need to bolster that defensive depth. And, we've had a lot of injuries this year, too. So I think defenseman is a big get at the trade deadline, maybe a little bit before. I know maybe they need a little bit of goalie help, but the goalies have been playing good. I know maybe they need a little bit of forward help, but the lineup they're putting together is scoring a ton of goals. So I think they have to focus on defense.
Absolutely. They are still first in the league in scoring, and they may already shatter what they did. They're halfway through the year, and they already have more goals than they did in the 2014-15 tank season, which tells you how bad that year was and how good this season has been going so far. I don't know about you, but I think the Sabres have so far exceeded expectations by a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, coming into the season, I know we all wanted to get close to that playoff bubble. I don't think me or you expected us to make the playoffs.
No,
At this
still
point,
don't.
I honestly think they definitely could make the playoffs. Right now, points wise, they're not there, but they got a couple games in hand. They're very close. If they keep winning, all of a sudden, maybe 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, we could find ourselves in a wild card spot sitting pretty. So you just got to hope the Sabres keep winning, keep scoring a bunch of goals. Got to hope that defense, gets better and the goaltending stays the same, because UPL and Anderson, they've been making incredible saves each night. They still are letting in 2, 3, 4 goals. A lot of the time, it's bad defense.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that a couple of against the big boys in the Eastern Conference. The Sabres are competing. They
mhm.
actually have won a couple of these ones, namely the Bruins and the Capitals. But you like to start winning in regulation against these teams if you really are serious about making the playoffs. And going for a guy like our first target here, Jakob Chychrun of the Arizona Coyotes, he would certainly help. Cal, what do you think about Jakob Chychrun?
Yeah, this guy's the big dog on the trade market for defensemen. I mean, every team's looking into him. His value, it's gone up and down throughout the season, right? I mean, we've seen this guy in the trade market. I saw, a ton of people from Buffalo wanted this guy last year. It seems every time he scores a goal, makes a good play, everyone's like, "Oh, there goes the trade value skyrocketing. Gonna add another first round pick to this." And then, there'll be a few games where he settles down, doesn't really, produce, and then people are saying, maybe the Sabres could snag him. I think this would be a huge get. I know a lot of people thought he was the missing answer to pair with Power. for this upcoming season or this season currently, we ended up not really getting anything. And right now, Power is matched up with not a long-term partner as we
Right.
kind of wanted, as
Mm-hmm.
Kevyn Adams alluded to before this season. So I think if we get Chychrun, I think that would be a perfect match to put with Power long term, and I think your top four defensemen would be set for the next 7-8 years.
Absolutely. And, one of the good things about him is, of course, he's not going to be a rental. He's still fairly young, 24
Yeah.
years old. And on a so Arizona Coyotes team, who, by the way, I think are exceeding expectations this season as well. He's been performing very well. He's got 18 points already in only 20 games played with a plus minus differential. Those are all really good. He has been everything the Coyotes could have asked for, and he's been good enough for plenty of teams to take a look at him. And I think, and a lot of insiders like Elliot Friedman have been saying as well, that, hey, watch out for the Sabres on this. They've been talking. There's something maybe brewing there. Um, to further add on to Chychrun, he's just a very good mobile defenseman. I don't know, what parts of his game do you like the most, Cal?
Yeah, I just think he's a smart player in general. Like you said, he's well rounded. There's nothing really that's horrible about his game. He has really no flaws. He's just solid all the way around. I think he would be a great fit for this team, and definitely a great guy to pair with Power. A guy like Power who we've seen this year, ups and downs. Definitely looks like a rookie out there, pretty slow with the puck sometimes, decision making not always the greatest, but we've definitely seen some upside from Power too. I think Chychrun added with Power as a defensive pairing would just bolster Power's game that much more, and could definitely help his growth. Like you said, though, a lot of teams looking in on Chychrun. This isn't just the Sabres game. I know the Sabres have a lot of money. And even when the Sabres have to sign Dahlin, have to sign some more RFAs and free agents coming up, they're still going to have a lot of money. Money should not be a concern with any of these people we talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, there's going to be a lot of bidders in this one, and I think a lot of teams have a few more pieces to trade away as far as players go. The Sabres have a lot of draft picks, though, so we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah, and the Sabres have the assets, and someone said it on Twitter a couple weeks ago. And it's like, it's nice to have all these assets for the future, but if you look at the Sabres forward core, I think this group is pretty much set for the next
Yeah.
short term, middle part of the years. Maybe down the road, you see Yuri Kulik, who is dazzled at the World Juniors, come up. No Ostland as well. Even Isak Rosean. That's the correct
Yeah.
pronunciation apparently. Rosean. I love saying that. All three of those guys have been fantastic, as my Be Real goes off. Yeah, I love that. And I think if you were to not make a move for a guy right now, you're really wasting another brilliant year of Tage Thompson, Jeff Skinner, and Alex Tuck, because you don't know what these guys are going to do in the
Yeah,
future.
you can't waste time at all. I mean, like you said, it's been the Sabres kind of motto every single year. Oh, we'll wait around. We still got a core coming up. The core is here. I mean, Jeff Skinner's not getting any younger. And I think, once he gets a few, maybe two more seasons down, he's going to start to lose some steam. So we got to take advantage of that. Tage Thompson, Dowling, they're having phenomenal years. Same thing with Alex Tuck. It may not be sustainable. You have a good core right now. You don't have a ton of guys to wait for. You got Savoy, who, a couple years. You still don't know what's going on with goaltending, really. Other than that, I mean, you're not really waiting for too many people. You mentioned Kulik, which, hopefully he's up here either next year or the year after. But it's not like you have Paterka, Quinn, you're still waiting for other guys in the AHL. It's go time now. So getting a guy like Chychrun, like we're talking about, a huge piece that could be here, several years, that would be a big ad,
Absolutely.
especially locking down your top four defensemen.
Yeah, and let's move on now from Chychrun to another guy I think a little lesser in terms of firepower, but he's also a familiar name, and he was a good locker room presence, and that is, of course, Jake McCabe, defenseman, of course, from the Chicago Blackhawks. Currently has a $4 million cap hit, which I think Chicago may be more than willing to eat a bit of that for this season at least. Even though the Sabres don't necessarily need them to do that, I think they could. They could bargain their way if Chicago wants a higher draft pick, which of course the Sabres do. Cal, what do you think about the Sabres maybe bringing back Jake McCabe?
personally, I'm a little biased. I love Jake McCabe when he was here in Buffalo. One of my favorite guys from, the tank years, per se. Everyone remembers this hit on line, but he's a very physical player, a chippy player, and I think that's what we need. We brought in Labushkin to kind of be that guy. Labushkin, he's great and all. He could get a few hits, but he's not really that chippy guy who goes, gets in people's faces, intimidates people. So I think a guy like Jake McCabe would definitely be a great get for the Sabres. Like you said, the money. I don't think the money's a problem, but you could definitely, work out a good deal for yourself with the Chicago Blackhawks because it is, a little bit high in that AAV. Chicago's been rumored they might want to trade him, right? Jake McCabe might be a big trade chip coming up. I know recently they've kind of rescinded on that a little bit. They said he might be part of the future with them, but it's definitely been brought up in trade talks. So I think if you could get Jake McCabe for a good deal, I think you got to do it. I mean, he's familiar with the system. I know the Sabres team is a brand new team, brand new Sabres. No more of that toxic, environment, atmosphere in Buffalo. But that being said, though, he does know the city, and I think the city loves him. So bringing Jake McCabe in, I think, would be a great move, especially for this team who needs another gritty type of player.
Yeah, and it's remarkable. You look at his +1 goal, plus minus differential on the Blackhawks, and you go, well, that's not very good. Yeah, but he's playing on the Chicago Blackhawks. He is one of only 3 players on that team to have a positive differential this season, and especially for a defenseman on that team. That tells you how good he's been defensively as well, because that team is currently the worst defensive team in the NHL. Like Seth Jones, that albatross of a contract, and the player who has not played very well, by the way, since going over to Chicago, he's got a -26 plus minus. -26. That's veering towards Rasmus Ristolainen. And the same story goes for most of the other defensemen, except for Jake McCabe. McCabe has been the outlier in that conversation, and for that reason alone, I think the Sabres should maybe think about bringing him back.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing to touch on money wise, I see a lot of people, very concerned about the Sabres spending money, just because we're not used to doing it, right? I mean, and every time we do seem to spend money on a guy, in free agency, it never works out. Taylor Hall, but you got to remember the Sabres are paying a lot of money this season for guys who are injured and never, Johnny Boychuk, for example, guys who are injured and are never going to see the ice with the Sabres.
Ben Bishop too, yeah.
Yeah, Ben Bishop too. I mean, you're paying Ben Bishop more than you're paying all 3 of your goalies on the roster right now. So I don't think money is a big concern for the Sabres at all, especially if you could eat up somebody's contract and get, even some more pieces to trade for a bigger asset in the future.
Absolutely, and as my phone blows up over Sabres stuff, apparently it looks like Tage Thompson just got selected to the All-Star game. Yeah, that's big news. Bringing a stable defenseman in like Jake McCabe, that would be very wise for the Sabres to do. But let's keep on moving now. Let's talk about Mattias Ekholm. This is kind of a shocker, and rumors of his maybe potential trade emerged a couple of days ago from some insider pages on Twitter and Instagram. Mattias Ekholm from the Nashville Predators. He's been a long-time Pred, and maybe something gets worked out here. He's got a higher cap hit. It's over $6 million for 3 more years, but he would bring 3 things: experience, points, and good defensive game.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, again, experience, I think, is the biggest thing. We got a lot of young defensemen and players in general on this team. And experience-wise, you got Kyle Okposo, you got Zemgus Girgensons, Craig Anderson. That's about it. I mean, this team needs a little bit more leadership, I think. I'm not saying Kyle Okposo is doing a bad job at all. I think he's doing a phenomenal job leading these guys. But it couldn't hurt to get another guy to help with leadership. Ekholm, he's going to give you some points, but overall, I don't see this one happening. Like you said, $6 million. I said money's not a problem. It is for the Sabres, though. Deep down, they're not going to make a trade for a guy getting paid that much, especially in a season where they are winning games, and they're not going to be forced to make this move. Would I like to see it happen? I'd be 50-50 on it. I don't think I'd be mad if it happened at all. But I just don't know what we'd have to give up in this situation, and I don't see Kevyn Adams making this move at this time.
No, and I brought it up for the biggest reason, and that is experience. When
Mhm.
Kevyn Adams was outlining a type of guy he wanted to play next to Owen Power, he said he wanted experience, a good stay-at-home right shot defenseman. And this season, the point totals haven't necessarily been there, but the defense has for Ekholm. And if you look at all three of those things that I just said, and that Kevyn Adams said as well, Ekholm fits the bill pretty well, pretty darn well. He's old and he'd be able to mentor Owen Power, and I think he would be an upgrade over Kale Clegg. And I
Oh yeah.
know that Clegg has been performing pretty well, but Mattias Ekholm would be an upgrade. The only problem, like you said, is that cap hit. It's at $6.75 million. I think the Sabres would try to negotiate that down if they were interested in Ekholm whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think experience is a big thing. It's just I think a guy like Chychrun, I think he brings more guaranteed years out of him. Let's say to put next to Power to be a permanent guy. Whereas Ekholm, maybe 2 years, 3 years, and then you move on from him. Power has to find a new D pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of you want to find something stable for a guy like Power, who we all expect to be towards star level within the next 5 years. I mean, he's the number one overall pick. So you got to get some stability there. But it definitely could happen. I could see it happening. But if I had to choose yes or no, I'd say it doesn't happen just
Mm-hmm.
at this deadline. But you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's fair. I just wanted to bring it up because his name is out there, and of course, he will be probably linked to Buffalo because we have money, and he
Absolutely.
he is earning a lot from Nashville, and he's a good veteran. So, let's keep on moving now, and let's get to our fourth target here, and it's another Arizona Coyote. It's Shane Gostisbehere. Haven't heard his name in a couple years, ever since he had that tragic downfall with the Philadelphia Flyers, where he just kind of crumbled underneath the pressure. But he's been quietly putting up a good season out there in the desert. Cal, what are your thoughts on Gostisbehere?
Yeah, I remember. I believe was he put on waivers last year, year before with
Yep.
the Flyers, and I
Yep.
know a lot of people in Buffalo wanted us to claim him. I mean, what's better than a free player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we definitely needed defense back then. We still need some help on defense. That's why we're making this video.
Yeah.
Gostisbehere, I mean, he's very middle of the road, up and down. Do I think he could have a good season with the Sabres? Do I think he could maybe turn it around? Yes. But this is a guy where you could definitely get something from Arizona to take him off their hands. I'm seeing
Yes.
a lot of reports that say before they even move Chychrun, they want Gostisbehere gone. It's looking like that team kind of wants to revamp, not completely rebuild, but revamp. I know they are exceeding expectations over there in their college arena, but we'll see what happens there. I definitely think the Sabres should look into this. I think they could definitely get a few more assets maybe with him and bring him over here. And, you never know what could happen in a trade like this. Maybe it's one of those things where you trade, you get a few more assets, and then those few more assets are what you need to get a bigger guy like Chychrun. Maybe it's a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah.
You get both of those guys, take on something else, send over some picks and maybe a prospect. I hate to speculate trades. I hate to make mock trades because there's always something wrong with mock trades, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's going to have a problem with one part of it. Somebody's going to have a problem with the other part of it. It seems
Yeah.
every single mock trade that's ever been made, there's a problem with it. So I'm going to leave the speculation out of the way. We'll wait to see if something actually happens, then dissect a trade. But I definitely think this should be something that the Sabres look into. And you never know. Maybe you get both guys from Arizona.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you look at it, and I think Oscar's been pretty good. He's got 26 points so far this season in 36 games. Only 10 of those points have come on the power play, and that was a prior misconception I had about him. I thought he was just a power play merchant, but no, most of his points have been coming from even strength, and he's been very solid as well. He's only -4 plus minus differential as well, which is, that stat's a little overrated, but I like to use it, especially for defensemen and
Yeah.
Casey Middlestat. Because they're both so bad. Um, I don't know. Gostisbehere, I never really thought about him coming to Buffalo, mainly because he's not known for being a stay-at-home defenseman. And if we look anywhere on the depth chart here for Buffalo, that's what you really are looking for.
Yeah, and I know Granado this year, he's really pushing the narrative, be aggressive. How many times have we seen Dahlin, Bryson, some of the faster defensemen pinch in? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it gets us in trouble, but other times, it leads to goals. We're leading, the league and goals scored. I mean, you look at this season, coming into this season, how many people would have said Buffalo top 3 in goals scored
No one.
midway through the year? No one. But that's another reason why our defense has been, kind of mediocre, because we're being so aggressive, pushing for goals, less defense. So it's kind of one of those situations where you want to get an offensive guy and just keep pushing your style of play, or do you want to bring in a stay-at-home guy to really bolster that defensive defenseman aspect of your team and not really help out your offense too much? Do you need to help out your offense? It's not looking like it, but bringing in a defensive defenseman could definitely change the way this team plays. So it's tough to pick what we want to really do. We'll see what they do, but a guy like Gostisbehere could definitely bring a little more offense into our team. Do I think we need it? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah, we certainly will, and it's very interesting what the Sabres could maybe do. You have Gostisbehere, Ekholm. Yeah, there's plenty of other guys we didn't even mention in this video. Guys like David Savard or Radko Gudas again, because Florida, they have a bit of a salary cap issue going on down there, and they really are.
And a bad team. I'm just gonna put it out there. Florida, the Panthers are severely underwhelming this season. I mean,
Yep.
we all expected them to be top 3 in the Atlantic all season long, coming off that crazy great season last year. And they really haven't been it, and they haven't met expectations at all. So
yeah,
that's interesting to see what's going on down there. You could definitely take advantage of them as well.
absolutely. And they have that really bad salary cap situation.
Mm-hmm.
Not to veer too far, of course, but Florida, just what was that Matt Tkachuk trade? I still do not understand what they were going for there. That's besides the point. There are plenty of other players out there: Gudas, David Savard, Vladislav Gavrikov. That's a handful of a name there. If he ever comes to Buffalo, I need to get better at pronouncing that one. Justin Braun as well, the veteran. There's guys out there that the Sabres could be targeting. Tell us in the comments section, who do you think the Sabres should go for on defense this season before the trade deadline? I was Don. This was Cal. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Let's keep Damar Hamlin in our thoughts and prayers, and we'll see you all in the next video. Peace.